Hi, welcome to Impact. My name is Rand Ladcock. I'm with the Wayfinders Business Co-operative, and today we're talking with Doug Piquette of the Edmonton Region Immigrant Employment Council. Welcome, Doug.
Thanks, Randall.
What is it that you focus on here at ERIEC?
And I would say that, one of our client groups that we really focus in on is the economic immigrant and refugees. So both client groups are really the ones we focus in on. And so this clientele has a lot of assets coming into, let's say, a new country. And they're very, very close at requiting their careers here in Canada. So a big part of what we do is try to be a bridge and provide them with sort of the tacit knowledge that they would require in order to sort of make that transition. And we basically leverage the experiences of in-house, if you will, mentors, peer mentors that are located here in the Edmonton region. So we ask them to sort of provide them some input on what is the Edmonton business culture, or the Alberta business culture, or Canadian business culture for that matter, and provide some insights and illuminations about that, so that their integration and even their adaptation is a little bit more successful by having those insider tips that they'll need in order to be successful here in Canada.
Does that mean then that many of your mentors would be immigrants themselves who have just been here a little longer?
Many of the mentors, yeah, it's actually interesting that you say that. Our original intention was to, have Canadian-born and professionals provide that mentorship experience. But what we find is that many of them are immigrants themselves, or were immigrants many years ago. And so their motivation was, I went through this, I've been in their shoes, and I want to give back a little bit and maybe provide them with some shortcuts on how that integration experience could be a little bit more shortened, if you will. I think it's really important that immigrants go through this experience, and so we don't want it shortened completely, because part of adaptation and integration takes some time. And that hard road really helps to build some of those skills, those intercultural skills that they'll need for the future of their careers.
Right. So how long would a person be in a mentorship before they're able to find the job they're looking for?
Well, I think mentorship can be defined in the time period could be as long or as short as you want. But what we've determined in terms of a time frame for a peer-to-peer mentoring relationship is about 24 hours over 4 months. 16 of those hours are conversations like we're having today, you and I, and having a coffee and having a trusted place where we can have some discussions on what kinds of things that I need to do in terms of my job search, or how do I keep my job, or how do I look at maybe changing my job, taking some of my skill sets and maybe moving it into another sector. Those are the types of conversations that occur in that mentored relationship. It's structured, so we have a manual that goes along with that relationship, and so that they can go to different links that we've identified that might be helpful to help sort of facilitate that discussion. But a lot of times in the mentored relationship, it's intuitive. So, goals are set mutually, and then we can go to that guide or that manual. Or the other thing too is we might just sort of naturally have this conversation. We'll discuss some things in terms of my goals if I was a mentee with you, and then you would help me to try and achieve those goals ultimately. So 16, we sometimes call it 16 cups of coffee. And beyond the actual relationship piece, there's also another 8 hours of intercultural competency workshops that we work closely with Northwest College. They provide us with those workshops once a month. So the mentor and mentee are free to go to those workshops for 2 hours. And so that, and then a fairly robust orientation that takes place right from the beginning, so that both the mentor and mentee are ready for a mentored relationship. So there's no, what are the lines and what are the codes of, our relationship. That's all predetermined so that and I know how this relationship is going to work, and then we move forward. So it's usually another couple of hours, but we really find that having that solid orientation and understanding the rules of how we're going to relate it makes it very clear as to how we can map out our relationship over the next 4 months.
Right. What other kinds of activities do you put on to assist your clientele?
There's a number of activities. So we have the two programming streams, mentorship and networking, and essentially they're mentoring kinds of initiatives. One just has a shorter sort of period of working with the client than the other. So the mentorship relationship is much more in depth, much more profound, and you really have an opportunity to develop a relationship and see some of the results of that relationship. In the networking side of programming, it could be a short touch. It could be speed career networking. It's similar to speed dating. So the relationship could be 10 minutes with an employer and an employee, or mentee and a mentor. So you got 10 minutes, which sometimes can be very valuable, even though it's just 10 minutes. You're under the gun or under some duress. You exchange that information, you discuss strategies, and then you get sort of that visceral input right away. And you take that with you, and then of course you move on to the next mentor, so like speed dating. Or it could be a conference where there's an information exchange and basically an HR panel that may discuss some items that would be very helpful for, let's say, a newcomer in the country who doesn't understand some of the nuances of how HR conducts itself here in Canada, and the behavioral style interviews, some of the questions that might be asked here that might be different from the home country.
Right. Yeah, so is that what happens at the Connector events?
The Connector events are a global talent conference that we run once a year, and we'll have a keynote speaker. Usually we'll talk about some of the items that we think is very important to, let's say, the newcomer, and as well to employers. So we're trying to mutually educate them and get that information out. Once again, so the information helps people to make informed decisions.
Right. And I guess this is also training for people to understand how to network with people on their own. How to conduct yourself in a 10-minute kind of interaction using your social instincts and sizing people up. Is this a good chemistry or not?
Yeah, exactly. Because I think we take for granted that we know these things, and I would even dare say that a lot of Canadians are, they struggle a little bit with those those brief conversations, those networking conversations. And people it's like public speaking, people get a little nervous about public speaking. Some people get very nervous in those networking opportunities. So we try to, impart, and again, through the employers that the mentors, that might apply some, of their own knowledge and how they approach a networking event and share those kinds of skill sets or strategies with the mentee. So that's really helpful, because a lot of people coming from different cultures network differently or come from a different kind of culture of how you connect with contacts that could be influential in, sort of moving your career along. So it's very distinct here in Canada, and knowing the rules of the game and knowing some tips really helps it makes the networking event or opportunity, and quite frankly, everything is a networking possibility. And so using those skill sets and feeling comfortable with those short conversations, and how do I get that information to you in 2 to 3 minutes so that you're not pushing me aside or saying, okay, that's enough information. But being effective in those 2 to 3 minutes, what we call elevator speeches. How do I do that without and not lose the opportunity to transmit some information to you?
Not to mention the fact that many people arriving here know nobody in Edmonton except immediate family.
Right. Yeah. Well, we like to call that your social capital. So some of our programs are actually focused in on that specifically. For some of our clients, they have a lot of the skill sets going into let's say, a job search or career search here in Edmonton. But what they don't have when they arrive is some of that social capital.
Right.
They have nobody. They may have somebody from their community or from their church or from some religious affiliation. So they've got maybe some community alliances, but maybe the professional connections they may not have so much.
Yeah.
And so we have what's called the connector program, and that's like a half an hour connection point connector with a connectee, and you might share with me a connection or two connections that you might have.
Right.
And I can follow up with them. And all of this work, as I mentioned before, it's all tacit knowledge. We try to couch people's expectations so that the mentees or the connectees are not going into those relationships thinking this is going to be my connection to a job directly.
Right.
What we're really focusing in on is those skill sets.
Right.
So whether it's, you'll be coaching me through something or you'll connect me to something, but what we want to do is not necessarily handhold,
Right.
but a leg up. So we
So-
want people to learn those skills. Sorry.
So many times it's a resume is just a starting point. It's really the face-to-face. It's, as they used to say, it's who you know, not what you know. To a large extent, other people in marketing have said it's all about the numbers. How many people are you connecting with every week?
Yeah.
It's a numbers game. Sooner or later it pays off.
That's right. Yeah, and then even beyond that too is it's who you know, but it's also who you know and that understanding that there's a hidden job market.
Right.
So it's who you know, and they may have information that the conventional resources that are out there to find work, you might not find on those sites. But if I talk to you one day and you just say to me, well, you know what? I know so-and-so, and they're actually they've got a new project coming up.
Oh,
They're
yes.
looking for somebody who might have some of your skill sets. Boy, that's gold. That's
Yeah.
really valuable information. And where would you find that?
Right.
You would find it through these
The
relationships.
job is not advertised.
Right.
You also work with employers in the Edmonton area. What is it you do with them?
Our approach with the employers is that, obviously we leverage our partnerships with the employer community here in Edmonton so that they're involved with that strategy of getting newcomers integrated into Edmonton and into their business backgrounds, whether they're engineers or accountants. But the other thing that we're working with in terms of employers is providing employers professional development opportunities that at no or very little cost. So it could be things like cultural competencies or intercultural competencies, leadership. Those kinds of things is what we offer vicariously through our programming streams of mentorship and networking.
For those employers who may be watching this video, what advice would you give them about the advantages of hiring people from different cultural or other backgrounds?
I'd suggest that if you're an employer and you're looking at these, this treasure trove of skill sets that are coming into this country that we sometimes undervalue or underestimate, I think to be proactive and do some learning about these sort of intercultural experiences, because people are coming in and they provide, sometimes we misinterpret, some of the things that they may do or not do as maybe being inefficient, or there's some incongruency that between the two, we're not maximizing this relationship, and vice versa. So the immigrants with the Canadian employer for that matter. But I think the other thing that employers should consider is that in their approach working with newcomers, professional newcomers, to maintain sort of a sense of empathy, because a lot of these folks are coming, they've given up a lot to come to Canada.
Right.
And sometimes, again, they might be misinterpreted. We misinterpret. We make assumptions about their culture. So to I think, undertake a sort of empathetic approach of, what would it have been like for them to take a leap of faith and come to Canada and give up perhaps a very good life back home and the journey that they're undertaking here to adapt and integrate. So taking that into consideration I think is really important. It sounds, I know for business people they're busy and it's like I don't have time for that, but I think the investment of time is worth it. At the end, you'll have somebody that's going to provide you with some tools, experience that will be nuanced and different from what you might experience maybe from people who are from Canada. So, I mean, it's not to say one's better than the other, but they'll both be different and they'll both have their advantages.
Do you have anything else you'd like to add to this interview?
Yeah, I guess the stories. I mean, the stories of individuals are so interesting. I guess for me, what I like to share why I love coming to work every day is the opportunity to be privy to these Herculean stories that like the people have made these journeys that maybe for us as Canadians would probably, it would be too daunting maybe, or it's a lot of work and maybe very difficult, and that's true. That's what it is. But so I think we need to sort of appreciate these stories that they bring with them. That's the start of something, I think, that is something very beautiful. And really, when you think about it, all of us come from that story. Maybe only 1, 2, or 3 generations ago, our great-great-grandparents had a similar journey and a struggle.
Right.
And it basically made them who they were. And then again, that's been handed down through the generations for us. And how we conduct ourselves today, that the work ethic, our sense of values, and all of those things we can identify with.
Yeah. And then they make stronger employees then.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have been through hardship, they've learned something. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
That's right.
And they bring that to the work that they do.
And there's a strong sense of loyalty too.
Mm.
Again, as you said, they're not broken. They're stronger now
Right.
as a result. But they're also very loyal, and they want to make this opportunity work.
Commitment.
That's right. Yeah, the one last thing I'd like to say is I'm really heartened by the sort of volunteerism that occurs from, let's say, the employers, and their willingness to step up and provide mentorship to
Right.
colleagues. It's very, I would say it's somewhat charitable, but it's actually, I think it's more collegial. It's
Yeah.
like if you're an accountant and I'm an accountant, I'll walk by your side and help you attain your licensure or a position, or we'll walk together and help you develop those strategies so that you do have success.
Right.
And so, like I say, I'm very heartened by Edmontonians and their ability to, sort of provide that assistance and give that leg up.
If you feel good about yourself and that the world has given you a good ride, then it's a matter of giving back and helping to continue the tradition of helping out.
That's right. Yeah. And it's evident. We see it every day here at our office. So, very proud of my city and our city for them stepping up and helping these newcomers have a great life here in Edmonton.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Doug Piquette at ERIEC, for giving us insights into the world of the work you do in helping immigrants to fit in and excel in our economy. You've been watching Impact. I'm Rand Ladcock from Wayfinders Business Co-operative.
Thanks, Randall.